Low quality fans of a high quality Bruins team, welcome back. Like, comment, subscribe. Merch is up at the link below. Great, we got through that. Guess what? We just drafted a bunch of guys. We drafted them in later rounds because we didn't have any picks. Why did we not have any picks? Well, because we traded them all away. That's kind of how that works. What I want to talk about is all of the guys we drafted, which we're going to get to. But before we do, just a real quick thing on Bertuzzi and buyouts. Bertuzzi was not some massive misstep. Why are we rewriting history? We traded, sorry, that was a Freudian slip. We traded for Tyler Bertuzzi because Taylor Hall had just gone down with what was an injury we didn't have a timetable for, and we were on a historic pace on a season, and we had to make sure we didn't waste it. That's literally why we went out and got Bertuzzi. And even better, when we went out to get him, we went, hey, maybe there's a chance for cap shenanigans, much like 2 out of the past 3 cup champions have had. So, sweet! And then it doesn't work out. We blow it in the first round. We've been over that. I don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it. But to now act like it was some massive misstep to go out and trade assets for it, and Bertuzzi might actually go back to the Red Wings. Bertuzzi testing free agency. Guys, that was always the plan. He was always a rental. When we made the trade, how many of us that speak about the Bruins on some sort of platform said, that's a rental? 100%, basically. We're closer to 100% than we are to 70%. I can pretty much guarantee that. He was a rental. And we all went, wouldn't it be great if we could re-sign him? But we have no cap space. He was a rental. Trading Taylor Hall to free up $6 million in cap is starting to look like it was a necessity regardless. And that's going to lead us to our next conversation. Mike Riley was bought out. And now, with Mike Riley being bought out and us pushing out qualifying offers too, I'm going to read them off real quick. We qualified DiPietro, Kaiser, the newly acquired Mitchell, Walsh, and regular McLaughlin, Lauko, Frederick, and of course Swayman tendered all of those, which means we still hold rights to all of them. So if someone tries to pluck them, it's an offer sheet, or it's a trade at least, it's whatever. With them being signed, and with Taylor Hall being gone, $6 million in cap, boom, gone, right? This is the current team that we can put together right this second with people we have either contracts for or people who will be arbitration, whatever. I filled in some numbers. I just chose 875 as the kind of base for all of the young ELCs. But that is the team right this second. Merkulov being in the top 6 is tough. But we're not going over all this. All I'm trying to do is point out that's the team. And we have $3.6 million in cap left over. That is us filling 7 different spots with a guy worth less than $1 million. 6 different spots with a guy under $1 million. And we only have $3.6 million in space. Even get rid of Forbort. Pretend we could trade Forbort, right? And then we just fill in with one of the younger guys. Make it 7 guys under $1 million in actual cap hit. And we have $6.6 million in cap space. And we have no true top center. We still need another left winger. Like, the holes to fill are still massive. Am I being a Debbie Downer right now? Sort of, but that's not how I mean it. What I'm trying to point out to you is that this Taylor Hall move was not just going to be immediately lead to a Bertuzzi signing. Because that cap space, unless we were signing Bertuzzi for less than what we had Hall for, we needed it just to fill out the roster and to potentially make some moves to bolster it. Other than spend it all on one guy who I am going to say, I don't think it's the end of the world. We're not signing Bertuzzi. I've been in that camp for a couple of weeks now. But it's just a lot different than what I'm hearing on social medias and in chat rooms. It's not like, hey, you lost Taylor Hall and now you're going to lose Bertuzzi? What a fuck up. No, Taylor Hall was going to get moved regardless. And Forbort, I'm hoping, still will. But even with those 2 contracts gone, the cap space is minimal. Someone put out, hey, the Bruins actually are 12th in available cap space right now. Yes, but we have way more holes to fill. Like, we're not actually 12th, are we? Right? We're not really 12th, because there's probably a dozen teams behind us that have less cap space, but only need to fill in 2 or 3 spots as their young guys continue to gain more traction, more ice time. I just don't want us to rewrite history on this Bertuzzi Hall situation, because people seem to be getting it very twisted, and I don't like it, and I've rambled too long about it. Other buyouts include, right now, just to kind of throw them out there, OEL, as we know, Nemeth, Cassian, Bailey, Yamamoto, an interesting one. I think he would be a good depth signing for a cheap price, so definitely a guy I have my eyes on. Duchesne doesn't make sense, and he's going to make too much money. That was a surprising buyout, honestly, but it's very, very unlikely the Bruins are anywhere close to that. And then Wheeler, who, please God help me, don't allow him to come back to the Bruins. I don't want it. I don't want a Blake Wheeler reunion. Great playmaker. Everything else of his game, I don't like. I really don't. Duchesne's better than a buyout, though. Some teams are going to be pretty happy that they snagged him for a lower price. I should correct myself real quick. Frederick and Swayman combined for $5.6 million, putting them in the lineup as well. I thought that was really a reasonable combination for those 2 contracts. We'll see how that shakes out. But that's where the other money went, for those of you wondering. I mentioned the qualifying offers. This is genuinely just good business, keeping everything tight as you would. You sign some of your younger guys, see the development continue. That's all that is. All right, I've calmed down. And we're going to talk about the NHL draft, where the Bruins had 5 picks all after the 91st pick, right? So we're late in the 3rd round just to start. But I went through, and I have not scouted these guys through and through. Some of them I've just learned their names this past week. But I went off of the opinions of experts. I went to a bunch of different scouting sites, read a bunch of articles, and I want to shout out one in particular, Dom Tiano. Just a fantastic job breaking it down. I'm going to put a link to his Twitter below. He has all his articles there as well. Just hit him up. But a really, really fantastic source for Bruins prospects and prospects in general. Just a really, really wise mind about it all. I'm saying too many positive things, Dom. Dom gets it. You guys get it. But let's talk about this Bruins draft, shall we? Pick number 92 in the 3rd round. And as usual, the Bruins go off the board for forward Christopher Pelosi. He was ranked 127th by Central Scouting, but not even ranked by many other programs. He's 18 years old, 6'1", 180-ish pounds. He's Wagner-esque. And that's not, people aren't going to get pumped about that. But the way I mean that is his plan, according to scouts, is constantly front of the net. Just charge the front of the net. Get in front of the net. Create havoc. He's a good puck retriever, a good motor guy, but he is solely focused on that area of the ice. He is decent at getting to his spots, not a great skater, but he does create a lot of pressure in those areas in front of goalies, and the added element of the puck recovery really helps continue those plays because his possession is pretty solid. Once he grabs that puck, it's pretty hard to knock him off of it, which, in general, you just love to see. He's a clear motor guy. He's one of those picks where you don't expect him to be above the bottom 6. Like, I guess your dream is Brad Marchand, who kind of like went that route, but he's not going to be a Marchand. If he makes it to the league, it will be likely at a wing position, I'd guess, honestly, and it would be on the 4th line as your motor guy who gets in front of the net and just creates trouble. Is that an insult? No. I mean, these guys work very hard to get into the greatest league in the world, but I don't see his ceiling anywhere close to above that. Bruins pick in round 4, 124th overall, forward Beckett Hendrickson. This is the guy that I think a lot of people are going to look at in this draft and follow along with. This is the one. He was ranked as low as 58th by Elite Prospects and as high as, for those who ranked him, 175th draft Prospects Hockey. He's a 6'2", 175-pound forward who, like Pelosi, has that motor, man. He's just the guy who keeps chugging along. But for Hendrickson, what I do like about the profile that I've read about is it's all about the craft. It's about these subtle, deceptive moves. His game is filled with deceit, creating lanes and executing on them, regardless of the position on ice, full 200 feet. That's where he strives. Those are his best moments, when he's trying to get a player on their back foot. He shifts his eyes, opens a lane, gets the puck up ice. He's not a brilliant physical specimen, and something that concerns me about him is I have seen in a few of the articles written about him, they want him to use his size more. And that's kind of a red flag for me pretty often. I don't bash Carlo for not using his size more because he's so effective in other ways. But when it comes to prospects, especially motor prospects, bottom six prospects, I like to hear that they use their size. And there's been complaints that he doesn't use it quite enough. But again, he's only 175 pounds at this time. We'll see if that changes. This is the guy who probably out of this draft has the highest ceiling. Maybe a really, really good third line forward is where I put his absolute peak. You don't come here for me to sugarcoat it and be like, this is a first liner. None of these guys show anything that's going to get them into the top six, and that's actually going to be a theme throughout the entire list, unfortunately. In round 6, with our third pick, 188th overall, we picked center Ryan Walsh. His rankings? No rankings. He didn't have any rankings, but that's fine. 6'1", 180-ish pounds, 19 years old. I knew almost nothing about him other than he was an overager in the USHL this past year. He was second in the league in scoring, so that's good. But as an overager in a league with, anyway, we're not going to go into the USHL. But he's a guy that I just don't have a lot of information on. From what I've seen, 200-foot player. His shot is okay, but his passing and vision are really high. He has a decent IQ. His road to the NHL will completely depend on his ability to string together more skills, to really put together a fuller package than what he has right now, because it's simply not enough. If he has a big year, I believe he's at Cornell next year. If he has a big year next year, he's that 6th round pick that people will be like, holy shit, nice, like really fun to root for, really easy to root for. I don't see it happening. I don't know if we'll ever hear the name again, if I'm going to be super honest with you. One of the most fun picks of the draft, round 7, pick 214, forward Casper Nason. I don't know. It's fine. No rankings, of course, but 19 years old, 6'4", already 205 pounds. He's a big old boy. I'm leaning fully on Dom Tiano here. Fully on him. Where he said, and I'm quoting an article of his, I love the shot, and I think he could beat NHL goaltenders with it now. That is massive praise. To be a 19-year-old kid who's just so far from the NHL, but have a trait where you went, that's NHL ready. That's massive praise. Everything else, not even close to an NHL level. This is a round 7 pick, right? Like, these are the guys you're picking. He has one amazing trait. If he can string together enough skills, he's a bottom 6 guy who goes on the second power play unit. He's a trigger man on your third line in the best case scenario. But he's going to be a lot of fun if he starts to string together some momentum. It's a really, really fun guy, especially at his size. But he is not as big as our next guy. Round 7, pick 220, defenseman Christian Costadanski. Ranked as low as 62nd, actually, by Central Scouting EU skaters, and as high as unranked by basically everyone else. 18 years old, a staggering 6'5", 215 pounds. Think about, just envision this, the Hulk, but on skates. Dude's a people deleter. Man, that's what he does. Can he skate? No. Shoot? No. Pass? No. Intimidate? Oh, absolutely. The dude's a monster. So, another fan favorite right out of the gates, I'm betting. He's your last pick in your draft. You're going to get excited about a guy like that. Here's my overall visage of this draft. From a guy who's just not a scout. With where they were positioned to pick, the draft was fine. They looked for upside on a couple of these guys. Really, Walsh and Hendrickson come to mind. But it is my firm belief there are red flag words that are used in articles from scouts, and you go and watch highlights, and you look at stats and box scores, and I would be shocked if any single player from this draft, from our draft, the Bruins draft, sees an NHL game. I would genuinely be like, wow, all right. The road for every single one of these guys is long and difficult. I'll be rooting for them every step of the way. I do not have a good feeling about any of these guys. Last year, Patois, I said the same thing about. I was just like, I didn't like the pick. I didn't like his reports. I didn't like him, and he's been so far doing everything you would expect him to do. Is he blowing us away? No, but he is on a path to get to an NHL game. And then Luke Mills was picked later in that draft, and based on the scouting and the reports and the tape that I got my hands on, I went, yeah, this is a guy who could make it to the NHL. And I just didn't get that feeling with any of these players. I didn't look at any of them, read anything, see anything, that I just went, yeah, this is a guy who has a real path there. So take that for what it's worth. I'm just some guy on the internet. You know how it goes, but it's always fun to discuss these guys. Tell me below if you have any more knowledge about these guys or if you have any opinions on them. I'd love to know. Other than that, that's all I got. Yeah, that's all I got. Free agency opens tomorrow, and we are gonna do a video Sunday for sure, based on the first day. Unless the Bruins do nothing, in which I will be sobbing under a bottle of tequila. Go Bees! Go Bees!